So let's talk about a chilling paradox. You have a regime that's weaker than it's ever been, right? It's cornered by enemies on the outside, facing a revolution on the inside, and it's thinking about making its most powerful, most dangerous move ever. This is the story of how a nation on the very brink of collapse might just see a nuclear weapon as its only way to survive.
And look, this isn't just us speculating. The regime itself, through its own senior advisors, has pretty much laid out the roadmap. They've made it clear that, yeah, a religious ruling, a fatwa, forbids nuclear weapons. But it's not set in stone. It comes with this huge escape clause if the very existence of the country is threatened. And by early 2026, that threat, well, it's not some abstract idea anymore. It is very, very real. We're talking streets on fire, an economy in a complete freefall, and the state's grip on power looking shakier than ever before. This is the real-world context for that quote. This is exactly what an existential threat looks like from inside Tehran. Which, of course, brings us to the absolute core question of this whole explainer. If you're a leader and you're staring at total collapse as a very real possibility, does a nuclear bomb start to look like the ultimate insurance policy? Is it that one single move that could shut down the opposition at home and warn off your enemies abroad, all at the same time? To really get what's going on in their heads, you have to understand the sheer, overwhelming pressure they're under. We're not talking about one crisis, it's two, hitting them at the exact same time. It's this brutal double squeeze, from the outside and from the inside, and it's pushing the regime right to the edge. So, the pressure just built and built all through 2025. First, hopes for a deal with the US just evaporated as talks collapsed. Then, the military hammer fell. Operation Rising Lion, a joint Israeli-US strike on key facilities. By September, the economy was being choked again as those crippling UN sanctions snapped back into place. And to top it all off, the year ended with the world's nuclear watchdog basically throwing its hands up, admitting it was flying blind, losing track of Iran's program. Each one of these wasn't just a setback, it was a body blow.
And what was the result of all this? I mean, it was devastating for them. Their famous axis of resistance just didn't hold up. Their so-called allies, Russia and China, offered a bit of talk, but not much else. The regime's ability to project power to deter its enemies, it was left in tatters. They took the hits, but they were left standing pretty much alone and badly wounded.
Okay, so that's the pressure from the outside. But while the regime was reeling from all that, an even bigger crisis was absolutely exploding within its own borders. Analysts have started calling it Iran's winter of discontent.
The economic pain was just staggering. And these aren't just numbers on a chart. This is daily suffering for millions of people. By December of 2025, food prices had shot up 72% in a single year. Medical supplies were up 50%. This is the kind of hyperinflation that doesn't just hurt, it destroys societies. It topples governments.
And the thing that really lit the fuse, the currency collapse. The rial lost half its value. And when that happened, protests erupted. Not just in the capital, but in every single one of Iran's 31 provinces. This wasn't some fringe movement anymore. This was a nationwide uprising, and it was fueled by pure economic desperation.
So how did the regime respond? With reform? Dialogue? Nope. They responded with brutal, calculated suppression. These images you're seeing, they're from leaked IRGC training manuals. They actually detail how to use motorcycle units to create loud noise and conduct psychological warfare to break up protests. This isn't just crowd control. It's a strategy of terror against their own people.
So let's recap. Squeeze from the outside, literally collapsing on the inside. Where does a regime like this turn? Well, this is where their most valuable and most dangerous asset comes into play. The nuclear program. But not as a weapon of aggression. They see it as the ultimate insurance policy for their own survival.
Okay, before we go any further, we need to be super clear on a key term here. Nuclear breakout. This isn't about launching a missile or anything like that. It's that critical moment a country crosses the threshold. It's when they've got all the pieces they need and they start putting the bomb together. It is, for all intents and purposes, the point of no return.
And right at the very heart of Iran's potential to do this is this single number, 400 kilograms. That is the estimated amount of highly enriched uranium that, after those 2025 strikes, is just gone, unaccounted for. Maybe it's buried in the rubble, or maybe it was hidden away somewhere safe.
And you have to understand, that 400 kilograms, it changes the entire game. That's enough material to build several nuclear weapons. It's the ace up their sleeve. They can use it as a threat to try and force new talks, or if everything else fails, they can use it to build the bomb and just rewrite all the rules.
This new reality has basically backed them into a corner. As one analysis puts it, Iran's old game of strategic ambiguity, keeping everyone guessing, that's just not working anymore. The pressure is too intense. So now they face this brutal choice: go all in for the bomb or face a total systemic collapse.
So what does that choice actually look like? Well, analysts see three potential paths the regime could take in this desperate gamble for survival. Two are kind of what you'd expect, but the third is radical.
All right, so path number one is basically to try and muddle through, crack down even harder on protesters and just hope that political changes abroad, maybe in the US or Israel, give them some breathing room. Path two is to just double down on pure repression, even if it means more isolation and economic ruin. But then there's the third path, the one analysts are calling a suicide breakout. It's a desperate all-or-nothing dash to build a weapon, because they believe it's the only move left that can actually save them.
And this is what you really have to grasp to understand their thinking. A nuclear breakout from inside Tehran wouldn't be seen as an act of aggression. It would be an act of self-preservation. It is the ultimate defensive move for a regime that truly believes it is about to be checkmated.
I mean, just think about the cold, hard logic from their perspective for a second. Having a bomb would instantly deter more military strikes. It would shock the world and force everyone back to the negotiating table, but this time on Iran's terms. Domestically, it gives them the perfect excuse to declare a national emergency and crush any and all protests. It's the ultimate trump card against sanctions, you see? In their eyes, it solves all of their biggest problems in one terrifying move. So, it all comes down to this one deeply unsettling question. When a regime's most basic instinct, the instinct to survive, crashes head-on into the global taboo against nuclear weapons, which one breaks first? That's the gamble being weighed in Tehran right now, and the rest of the world is just holding its breath, waiting for the answer.